it's what's known as sober curious as well. So there's lots of people who are thinking, oh, do you know what? Like, I wouldn't call myself an alcoholic by any means, and I've still got a good job, but actually, do you know what? I have been drinking every day, or I seem to I really crave that glass of wine on a Tuesday, and I always feel a bit rubbish at work the next day. I wonder what it's like. And the more people you have, particularly like famous people and influential people who don't drink, and you sort of look at their lives and think, well, their lives are still amazing. The more people talking about it and having other options out there, I think it's just really important to start kind of talking about it more and letting people realize that there is sort of more to life. And actually, even you don't know what I'm saying, you have to give up alcohol completely, but sometimes just having a glass of Boucha in a nice wine glass in the evening at 6 o'clock when you finished work maybe, or when you put the kids to bed and you're just getting comfy and just sitting down, having a glass of that is enough to kind of trick your brain into thinking that you've done that punctuation moment. The day is now done and I'm now relaxing. And you realise you don't need that glass of wine. You don't need the alcohol in it anyway. Finding your tribe of people that don't drink is amazing. And I would say that is probably one of the key things for people to do if they did want to sort of cut down on drinking, because you can still go out with lots of people who are drinking and have a good time, but you do become on a different level and people sort of stop listening so much, and you don't necessarily want to do the same things. You don't want to sit in a pub for 8 hours anymore, because that's not as interesting. You might want to go for a couple of hours and have some food, but if I've not only have I got my sister who doesn't drink, but a good friend of mine stopped drinking 6 months after I did, and then I have met a load of people from Club Soda who are from Brighton, meeting people to go and have, we have picnics, we go for walks in the country, we go bowling, we've started doing all these other things, and it seems to have opened up my world a bit more, from the pub, which is great. And I'd love to do some sort of, sober holidays and things like that, because it is quite tricky doing the sober firsts. So the first sober birthday, your first sober wedding. I've done 2 hen weekends. I've done speeches at weddings. I even married one of my other best friends. I was the vicar, but completely sober. And I thought, do you know what? I don't think I'd have been able to do it as well as I had done, or even been able to write these speeches, had I been, still drinking. And still staying up dancing and actually just accepting that it's really good. Actually,
Hello and welcome to Celebrating You, and I'm so excited to introduce to you Bryony from Boucha Kombucha. Welcome, Bryony.
Hello, Maria, thank you for having me.
Hello, Bryony. Thank you so much for having me too in your lovely lounge. And why don't we start by toasting to you and your gorgeous drink?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to pop a little bit more in my glass.
And tell us all about it.
So the initial idea for Boucha Kombucha came to me when I gave up drinking alcohol just a little over 2 years ago. And I hadn't even heard of kombucha until about a year or 6 months after I'd given up. But for that first 6 months, when it was really tricky for me to go out, if I was socialising with friends who were drinking, there wasn't anything for me to have, or particularly trying to go out for dinner and feeling like you just had a fizzy water or a juice or lots of very sugary mocktails and things, lots of things hanging out. And I just wanted something to replace the wine. I was always a wine drinker anyway. But I knew I didn't want to get drunk anymore, but I did want to have something really nice in my food. So I tried kombucha for the first time at a mindful drinking festival in London. And I was just absolutely amazed, because people who don't know what kombucha is, it's a fermented green tea. Well, it can be any tea, black tea or green tea. Lots of people use a black tea, but mine's made with Sencha green tea. And you use a bit like with other alcoholic drinks, you would use a yeast to ferment the fruit or the grain. This uses a yeast and a bacteria to ferment the sugar from the green tea, and it has it does something magical. It's magic or science, and it eats the sugar in the tea, turning it into alcohol, and then the bacteria eats the alcohol and turns it into these amazing healthy enzymes for your gut. So it's got this it's a very slightly funky taste or slightly vinegary taste, but that was what was so appealing for me, because it felt grown up. It wasn't a drink that you just wanted to knock back because you were thirsty. It was a drink which you would sip nicely, and it has these kind of fruity, citrusy elements to it, which just work really well with food. So yeah, that was kind of the first kind of light bulb moment at this festival, thinking, right, this is what I'm going to do. And I knew I'd been looking for ages to set myself up with something. I wanted to do something different. I think the whole giving up drinking bit had come at a time when I was stuck. I was stuck anyway, and I'd spent 5 years like trying to do other things. I was trying to do this course or that course, and everything. It felt like I'd just fail at everything. And I now realise that I wasn't actually failing. I mean, I've got a good degree. I've done parts of courses. I wasn't doing badly at them, but the fact that I was quite dependent on alcohol, and I was using it to support me with any stresses. I was using it for anxiety. I was using it for confidence. I was using it thinking. I had this whole belief system around alcohol that it was necessary in my life and that it was fun. Once I'd given up the alcohol, all the things seemed to start falling into my life, and I started to find myself being more creative and more productive, and suddenly it was literally like my brain was waking up. Like, we all know that alcohol's a kind of a depressant, or it brings you down. It slows you down. It dulls everything. So I think it almost felt like it was actually giving me some sort of brain damage or slowing me down in some way. And so giving that up after about 6 months, and it wasn't instant by any means, like the feeling better. But I was like, right, now is the time. Now's the time. I've got energy. I've got drive. I've got creativity. And I was sorting out lots of different areas of my life at the time. But yeah, I was like, right, I'm going to do this. It was I think like literally a year ago today, I went to Berlin, and I found this, was it about 3rd or 4th of June, so nearly a year ago, in 2019, and I just found these people. They're a consultancy, but they're a kombucha consultancy company, which I didn't even think existed, and they were having this workshop in Berlin all about how to sort of set up a kombucha business, because there's the making of it is one thing, but then there's starting up a business, which is another thing. So, and it was two areas I was a bit kind of like grey on. Like you, I had tried making it myself, and I was like, why is it like really smelly, or why is it got all these bits floating in it, and why does it taste so funny? And I was trying all these different teas, and it's never really working. But I had this amazing, just the whole, I went to Berlin on my own. It was like the first time I'd done this kind of like trip on my own to do something to improve myself. And I had 2 full days in Berlin, which is the most incredible city anyway. Just sort of exploring, going to museums and things like that. And then 2 full days on this course. And it was really, really interesting, because I realised fairly quickly that either I was going to have to spend tens of thousands of pounds creating a brewery, finding all the right equipment, and then I'd still have to put a lot more money in consultancy to kind of get the expertise, because it is a science. You need exactly the right temperatures, exactly the right quantities, everything's measured, everything has to be checked on a daily basis. You need all these instruments and checking pH levels, because it's a living thing. It's got all these good bacteria in it, so you need to be really careful about the balance of those, particularly if I was thinking, right, I want something to go out to restaurants, I want something to be sold in pubs, I want to be able to sell this online to customers. You've got to be really, really careful with food and drink, hygiene, all of that kind of stuff. Or there was the option they were saying, which lots of people do, and lots of beer companies do this, and lots of even like vineyards do this. They grow the grapes, but they don't have the ability to make the wine, so they send it off to someone who does. So I was put in touch when I came back from Berlin about a week later. I was put in touch with these Gina and Luke from Wild Fizz Kombucha, who are in Tottenham in London, and they were just absolutely amazing. So they did the sort of the second part of it, where I went to them with my idea, and my idea was to make a slightly different kombucha. I wanted to make very specifically a kombucha which tasted like wine, like as much like wine as you can possibly make something taste like wine, because it was the closest thing I'd found to have that grown-up flavour to it. All of the alcohol-free wines that I'd found in the supermarket were just gross, and they were synthetic, and they weren't natural, and they were full of sugar. I mean, really, really full of sugar. And I have been on a real kind of, I was also on a health kick at the same time, you know, trying to sort of think about my sugar intake, think about my well-being, your sort of mental well-being, and what you're putting in your body. So I knew I wanted to make something that was really like organic and good for you, and it had to be low sugar. So yeah, it had to be like, I wanted it to be like a wine. And so I went to them saying, these are the wines I liked. These are the flavour profiles of the wines I like. So we were looking at like Sauvignon and Muscadet in particular, and it was coming up with like gooseberry, green apple, green pear, some other ones as well. And so we just spent a good couple of months playing around. So we always went with I think we tried some Assam tea as well, and a combination of Assam and green tea, and a bit of peach, I think, a bit of sour cherry. We did loads of different combinations until we just came down to quince and gooseberry. And where Gina's kind of come in, it's her absolute expertise. She's been making kombucha for years, and she's got her own brand. And she said, well, if we want to make something that's commercial as well, we want to flavour it only just slightly. So it's not going to be really sweet. A lot of kombuchas are competing with fizzy soft drinks. So they're saying, we're not as bad as Coca-Cola. We are really good for you, but there's still quite high sugar, but it's still much healthier than the alternatives. She said, well, we're going to make sure we only put a tiny bit of these flavours in, so it still stays nice and tart. And because you're not going out there trying to make a gut tonic, essentially, which a lot of them in the health shops are, she said we can filter it. So it actually removes the yeast and removes a lot of the bacteria, but it still leaves all the antioxidants from the green tea, and a lot of beautiful enzymes are still left in the drink. So it's still a really healthy drink, but it means you don't have to store it in the fridge. You don't have to treat it like a dairy product, for example. And so it can be stored outside the fridge, and it's got a nice long shelf life. So we finally kind of got the last kind of tastings done in about it's about September last year. And in the meantime, I've been doing things like sourcing the bottles and the lids and the caps, and like trying to think what I wanted it to look like, and got my mum to paint the label, which I always knew I wanted her to do it. She's a fab artist. And then got the graphic designer to kind of put it all right with all of the wording and everything like that. And yeah, my little tagline, sip, share, pair. I thought that was a bit clever. I was quite pleased with that one. So yeah, and that was all. It was about November that we did our first run of just 100 litres, and that was a sort of a bit of a soft launch where I live in Brighton. And yeah, they all sold out before Christmas. You know, and that was literally just through social marketing, word of mouth, social media, and just word of mouth, and people sort of wanting to try it, because I think I'd been talking about it for so long, and I think I drank quite a lot of it as well. I've been waiting so long for it. But yeah, we officially launched in January last year. So yeah, this is my baby. It's my absolute baby. And whilst I had, my original business plan had been to get it out into the restaurants and to bars, and that was a lot harder than I thought. And I think the main reason is because it's a very new product. Like, no one had seen it before, and there's not a lot of people talking about it, and even non-drinkers don't know it existed yet. There's very few kombuchas on the market which are marketing themselves as an alcohol-free option. So a lot of the restaurants are a bit like, oh, why would you not want to drink? It was just a bit like, no, who's going to want that? And who's going to want to pay for it? And, oh no, we like being able to give our non-drinkers something really cheap, you know, whereas actually non-drinkers now want to be treated the same as anyone else. So it was a bit hard. I did a few kind of just going into restaurants and coming away feeling being a bit deflated. But I think it really showed me the attitudes still now towards not drinking in our society. So, you know, it's still not a normal thing. You know, when you say you don't drink, people are still like, oh God, why not? Or, oh, are you an alcoholic? Is the one which really gets me. Or, you know, that people make all these presumptions about you, you know, for not drinking, and they don't necessarily associate it with something really glamorous. You know, we have all these adverts for whiskey, for wine, for beer, which are kind of promoting it as this thing that makes you super sexy and super confident and yeah, super glamorous at these big parties. And it makes you think, I want that lifestyle. Yeah, actually that lifestyle is really damaging to a lot of people. And totally get that it's also not very damaging to a lot of people, and a lot of people are totally fine with it. But I really wanted to create something that was going to give wine drinkers, people who don't drink wine or don't drink alcohol, I wanted to give them the same experience as everyone else who does. And so that meant going to a restaurant and having a beautiful bottle on the table that might have cost you £20, you know, in a restaurant, but that's okay, because you were feeling exactly the same as you would if you did have that. When you have a glass of water, or even fizzy water, or even, I don't know, a sort of juice or a mocktail, it still doesn't feel quite so special, and particularly not when you're eating, I don't think. So yeah, it's kind of opened my mind a little bit more as well to wanting to get a little bit more into the movement, and it's what's known as sober curious as well. So there's lots of people who are thinking, oh, do you know what? Like, I wouldn't call myself an alcoholic by any means, and I've still got a good job, but actually, do you know what? I have been drinking every day, or I seem to I really crave that glass of wine on a Tuesday, and I always feel a bit rubbish at work the next day. I wonder what it's like. And the more people you have, particularly like famous people and influential people who don't drink, and you sort of look at their lives and think, well, their lives are still amazing. The more people talking about it and having other options out there, you know, I think it's just really important to start kind of talking about it more, and letting people realise that there is sort of more to life. And actually, even you have no one saying you have to give up alcohol completely, but sometimes just having a glass of Boucha in a nice wine glass in the evening at 6 o'clock when you finished work maybe, or when you put the kids to bed and you're just getting comfy and just sitting down, having a glass of that is enough to kind of trick your brain into thinking that you've done that punctuation moment. The day is now done and I'm now relaxing. And you realise you don't need that glass of wine. You don't need the alcohol in it anyway, you know? So, yeah, that's the first bit. Thank you. I know, I mean, partly it was quite interesting that because of lockdown, all the restaurants and bars closed. So I was doing events as well, and they were quite successful. I was doing vegan events, yeah, 'cause it's vegan as well, and gluten free, and all the other sort of free from things which people are very conscious about. And so I was doing all these events, and all of them got cancelled. I was going to be doing food festivals all over, you know, London, Brighton, Bristol, Edinburgh. I had more booked in, and I was so excited. And then so it all gets cancelled, and I also was about to get into a couple of really quite good retailers, and they just said, right now, no, as soon as like the pandemic hit, they said, we just can't take on any new products at the moment. It's just not the right time. But weirdly enough, because I think, like you were saying, with lockdown, there's people, you know, there's a lot of sort of drinking on Zoom and still socialising, but there's also a lot of people who have found themselves feeling a bit like they're on holiday all the time, and maybe like they're doing homeschooling and having the kids, and they're probably stress levels because they're trying to juggle work, the house, and being at home, and being locked in a space. And so they're turning to having a drink, and it's loads of people told me it was getting earlier and earlier in the day. So there's a lot of like people I know that I've been doing actual personal deliveries to were saying, just I need like 2 cases, because I need something in the house at all times, because I cannot carry on having a bottle of wine every night, you know. And they weren't saying to me, I want to give up drinking for good, but they were like, this has really shown me how easy it is. You know, it's not our fault that we become addicted to these things or become dependent on these things. You know, not everyone's an addict, but we can become really dependent on these things, thinking that we need them. And because we've got this belief system, and it's all around us telling us, oh, you need that after a long day. Oh, you deserve it. It's a treat. And actually, at the end of the day, it is a poison. And I know loads of people roll their eyes and say, oh yeah, whatever. I love it. I love drinking. But it is a poison at the end of the day. And if it's something that you're going to put in your body every single day, it is going to affect you at some point. It is going to make you feel slower, more tired, and particularly as you get older. I mean, you know, when you're in your 20s, you probably can get away with it a bit more. No, it's, yeah, lockdown, yeah, let's just talk about lockdown, wasn't it? Lockdown, I started getting more online orders at the end of the day. That was the thing. And so now I've got this whole database of customers who have been, I'm already on like 3rd, 4th repeat orders from people all over the UK. And so I've been trying to do as much promoting to people as possible, because there are people in their homes who need delivery, you know, rather than being able to go to a shop and buy it. And I think that when eventually the events do start up again, or when the restaurants open again, I can now go to them saying, I've got X amount of customers who love this. I have got customers in this town who have said this is what they want. You know, they don't drink, but they want to see something like this in the restaurant. I could do, you know, I'm going to try and, I want to sort of focus and do a few surveys with people. I'm in quite a lot of sobriety kind of network groups. You know, there's Club Soda is a really, really big one, but there's other ones as well, like smaller groups of people who can just talk to each other about not drinking, because, you know, and support each other through it, because it is really, really difficult at first. It's not difficult for me anymore, because I'm 2 years down the line and I haven't touched alcohol, and I have literally no desire whatsoever. Even when I'm stressed out to the max, alcohol just isn't there on my radar anymore. You know, so it's not a disease in my mind. It's not something that stays with you forever. It's not something that you're going to have to, you know, live with and struggle every single day of your life, you know. So I don't fall into that sort of belief system about addiction in general, really. The way I did it was retraining my brain. So it's literally just a case of, I mean, I had tried to give up over about a 10-year period. So I'm 40 now. So from about 30 to 40, there were times where I was thinking, this is getting a bit much. I'm drinking too much when I do drink. I don't like the person I am when I drink too much. There was a massive sort of cognitive dissonance between me saying, oh, but I love drinking and it makes me feel happy, to then the next day waking up and thinking, I didn't enjoy that night and I feel now full of like remorse, shame, can't remember anything. So there was a real distance between what I was believing and what the reality wasn't balancing. And I had tried, you know, I had even gone to an AA meeting or two and found them to be I didn't like the idea of being powerless. I didn't like being labelled an alcoholic, and I didn't like this whole forever thing, that you're going to be forever an addict. It didn't seem to sit with a sort of positivity. And I know loads of people love it and it's been amazing for them and they've had entire lifetimes of sobriety because of it. And I think it's also very good sometimes to unpick what's going on in your head and in your life. But there wasn't a huge amount out there. You know, if you Googled, I'm drinking too much, ways to stop drinking, it was just AA. That was the only thing out there. Until it was when I stopped drinking this time, which I stopped for good, there suddenly started being a bit more of an influx of literature and podcasts. And the one in particular, which was amazing, was Annie Grace, This Naked Mind. And she's an American woman, and she was like high flying in the marketing world. But there was something about what she was saying that really resonated with me. You know, she was a normal working woman, a mum of young children, married, nice house, good job, but she was drinking way too much, and she started lying about how much she was drinking, started wanting it earlier and earlier in the day, but still managing to completely hold it together, still managing to be a great mum, still managing to run 10 kilometres 3 times a week. You know, I was thinking that was me. You know, I could run 10 kilometres after drinking 2 bottles of wine the night before, which, you know, people go, what? But you're in such denial that it's a problem that you think, no, it's fine, I'm just going to do it. And I would do it. And I mean, I don't know how literally, it would kill me if that happened now, but I think your body does get used to it. But yeah, so I found Annie Grace's This Naked Mind, and in that she just unpicks these belief systems. I think her opening thing is it's a discussion about the role alcohol plays in our life and in our culture, and so that just really kind of excited me. It was like, okay, this is brilliant. She even says, I drink as much as I want when I want. I just don't want to drink, so I never drink. But she said if I wanted to, I would, but I just don't want to. And so it's basically taking away the desire. So there's no willpower needed because you're not denying yourself anything. So it trains your brain to look at the actual reality. So is this making me happy? No, it's not making me happy. I wake up every day feeling awful. I'm sluggish. I'm not moving forward in my life. And then you look at the alternative, which is not drinking. And yeah, I mean, it's not an instant thing, and you do have to work really, really hard, and you do have to look at maybe the reasons you're drinking, which often aren't obvious. But there's, you know, after that, suddenly all of these books were coming out, all of these amazing memoirs. There's one called Blackout by a woman called Sarah Hepola, who is another American woman, and the Unexpected Joy of Being Sober. And that's Catherine Gray, and she's British, but they were both journalists. So they were, again, you know, these young, beautiful women who were in their 30s, who were single, who were, you know, working in the cities, in the big cities, and being wined and dined every night, and having to schmooze with people, and finding themselves that they were having to stay up till 3 a.m, then waking up on the other side of town at, you know, 10 o'clock the next day, having not gone into work, not knowing where they were. And that, you know, it was quite a sort of, they're quite heart-wrenching stories, and then their tales of then getting sober. And there's loads of books written by, you know, other mums and stuff who said they've had, you know, sometimes people have had rock bottoms, sometimes people have just had enough, sometimes people have been ill or unwell, a bit like you know, just saying it's health reasons, you know, you don't feel comfortable. But all of a sudden I started to feel like, hang on a minute, this is quite normal. Like, it's quite normal to experience issues around alcohol, and actually it's quite normal to experience issues around yourself, or self-doubt, or all of these sort of you know, that I suppose it is mental health, you know, and you start realizing the real reasons why you drink in the first place. And often that is, you know, I only realized later that I had quite crippling self-doubt and you know, a negative self-talk from a very, very young age. And I can clearly remember the very first time I drank alcohol, and I was 13, and I'd gone to a party with my older sister. So there were boys there who were like 15, 16. And so I felt totally young and out of my depth. And I had a can, I remember sitting on a bench outside the house and downed a can of like strong cider. And suddenly I became like, I was like sassy, and I was just going over to these people and I was making them laugh, and they were probably laughing at me, but I thought, wow, this is the person I want to be. I hadn't known at that age that I had this horrible feeling in my tummy about myself, that I was constantly putting myself down and hating myself, because it was just an internal dialogue. And then you have alcohol and it numbs everything negative. So it doesn't actually give you anything positive. Alcohol just doesn't do that. It's not capable of doing that. It doesn't give you serotonin, for example. But what it does do is it numbs any negative thoughts. So if you've had a bad day at work, no more bad day at work. All you can think about is how nice and rosy everything feels. So it takes away, basically, it takes away the negative rather than giving you a positive, yet we're all made to believe it gives you a positive. But yeah, on that experience, on that night when I was 13, I was like, wow, this is the person. This is the real me, I thought. I just had no idea that was not the real me. And I honestly don't think I found the real me again until I gave up drinking this time, age 38. You know, It's bonkers. And I literally, when I gave up drinking, I thought, I don't even know what I really like, or what I really want, or what I, that's why it was this slow, like, waking up of the brain. It's actually rerouting brain nerve stems and everything. And that's, so I feel like I've grown up in the last 2 years. It's like when people say, I know what I want to be when I grow up now. And there's still more I want to do. There's still loads more I want to do. Obviously, this is really keeping me busy, but yeah, I think there's lots more I can do in the sobriety arena and the wellness arena as well, which is an area I'm just really, really interested in. And yeah, mental health, and possibly coaching or something like that in the future. I mean, maybe particularly when I've got even a few more years under my belt, because every month that goes by, something gets more, or something gets better, or I start understanding something a little bit deeper, or I go through another experience sober and realise, wow, that was so much better, not being influenced by anything.
Yeah, because the alternative, the before and after scenario, so you can always look in. That's insanely powerful what you've just said about the brain, and how I agree with you. It's not that I believe alcohol is a poison. It is a poison, and it damages brain cells. I mean, it's simple as. And so if there's brain fog, that's why they've just been shot to death. The other,
I do think, if I walk down the supermarket aisle and I see the red wine, and I think, oh my God, I could just inhale 2 bottles of red wine like now and then just pass out. And that's not because I like wine. That is because I want to just stop. I want the world to stop. I want to get off now. But that's just such an avoidant thing to do as well. But I totally get, you still get those, but I wouldn't call that even a craving for a drink, not like a sort of normal craving, like I fancy a glass of wine. That's me just saying. And so that I have to then pay attention to that and say, why do I want the world to stop spinning, and why do I want to get off right now? And then I have to deal with it. And I think alcohol is so good at its job as well. It's quick. It's like you just have that sip and you're like 10 minutes later you're like, right, that feels better. So it's really efficient. So we've learned that when I'm stressed, all I need to do is have a bit of wine, and then I'm going to feel better. And it's so much easier to do that, particularly when you've had a stressful day, you've got stuff going on at work, you're arguing with your partner, your kids are screaming, or whatever your life is. There are stresses that can come about which mean you want to have alcohol. And I've had to create an entire new toolkit for what to do. And they might be very simple things like just going for a walk, being in nature always, every single time, takes away any sort of bad energy and negative thoughts, or if there was a craving, just getting out in nature. I mean, I'm so lucky to live in Brighton because I've got the beach down the road and I've got the countryside on my doorstep. So I'm if you live in the middle of a big city like Birmingham or something, I'm sure it's a lot harder to get that. But just to get some oxygen in your lungs is a really good one. Or I'd have a long bath, or I would read a book, or I'd just go to bed early, just go to sleep, or make some nice food, or do something that my body actually wants, because half the time the alcohol isn't actually what your body actually wants. Your body wants to relax, and so it physically wants to relax. So yeah, you just need to do things, but it takes half an hour to relax rather than 5 minutes. But it does have the same effect, and you don't have a hangover the next day, so that's just win-win.
Yeah, and then you don't get the calories.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a really positive movement. And what's been so strange, one of the hard things actually I'd say about giving up drinking is when the people you love the most are still drinking around you, because there's no two ways about it. You will go on a different sort of energetic level to them when they're drinking and you're not, and you can love them as dearly, I mean, including my mother in this, when she's had a drink and I obviously haven't. Sometimes there is a balance there where the communication sort of goes a bit awry, so I've lost my point quickly. Dealing with people who don't drink, and so dealing with people who do drink, and then finding your tribe of people that don't drink is amazing. And I would say that is probably one of the key things for people to do if they did want to sort of cut down on drinking, because you can still go out with lots of people who are drinking and have a good time, but you do become on a different level and people sort of stop listening so much, and you don't necessarily want to do the same things. You don't want to sit in a pub for 8 hours anymore, because that's not as interesting. You might want to go for a couple of hours and have some food, but if I've not only have I got my sister who doesn't drink, but a good friend of mine stopped drinking 6 months after I did, and then I have met a load of people from Club Soda who are from Brighton, meeting people to go and have, we have picnics, we go for walks in the country, we go bowling, we've started like doing all these other things, and it seems to have like opened up my world a bit more, from the pub. Which is great, and I'd love to do some sort of sober holidays and things like that, because it is quite tricky doing the sober firsts. So the first sober birthday, your first sober wedding. I've done 2 hen weekends. I've done speeches at weddings. I even married one of my other best friends. I was the vicar, but completely sober. And I thought, do you know what? I don't think I'd have been able to do it as well as I had done, or even being able to write these speeches, had I been, still drinking, and, still staying up dancing and actually just accepting that it's really good. Actually, another really good tip, if you are sober and anywhere, like the other one was my first holiday, and I went to Barcelona for a weekend, and it was springtime, so the sun had just started to come out, and obviously Barcelona is beautiful, and there's all these squares and everyone's out there eating their tapas, and they've all got that the wine or the Aperol spritz everywhere. And I sat down. Luckily, they all did. The only thing that anyone ever does is an alcohol-free beer, and I didn't even like beer when I was drinking, but it was better than squash or water or something. So I ordered my beer, and then I just looked around and I thought, this is so beautiful. Where I am, we've got a sort of hillside over there, the beach over there, the beautiful architecture, the sun is beaming down on my face, I'm with the person I love, and I looked around and I imagined that everyone had alcohol-free drinks in their drinks, and I thought, they're still having a good time. They're not having a good time because they're drinking alcohol. They're having a good time because it's beautiful and the sun has come out and they're with the people they love and they're laughing because they're people they love, not because they've got alcohol in their drinks. And if I just believed that everyone else was drinking an alcohol-free drink, the same as me, and it totally changed my whole perception of it. And that's when you start to notice all the things in this wonderful world that we have anyway, that we don't need drink to make them brighter or make the sunset more beautiful, or the world is lovely enough. I think I did cry at a full moon once, which is a bit I just cried at the beauty of nature. But I think you get in touch with your feelings again. You start feeling feelings, start actually feeling things.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, because the beer goggles are not making you look super gorgeous.
Yeah.
Because I'm sober, but
yeah,
you know what it was like when we were young.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so touching. Just imagining that, because it's almost like imagining a sort of paradise. The way you were describing it.
That's the whole. I think that's part of the work, isn't it? When you, for me, for anyone who's gets sober, it's you. In order to not be doing it through willpower, you have to be doing the work, and sometimes that means sitting with some quite uncomfortable feelings. So it's about paying attention to those feelings. When you think, I really want to drink, you have to think, why is that? So what is really going on here? It's not because I like wine so much, it's because I'm trying to cover something up. There's always that, even if it's not a really obvious thing, there's always a bit of a void going on which you're trying to fill with something. And so many people who drank a lot and then give up find that they replace it with sugar, for example, or there's loads of things we tend to consume or do which is actually, I've teamed up with a wonderful woman, Mariana, who does she runs green mindful keto, mindful green keto, that's her company. And she so she's offering a free session, and I offer a voucher for a free session with her every time you buy 6 bottles of Boucha. And she loves Boucha, because she really encourages people when they're trying to, say, lose weight and get healthy, just to stop drinking alcohol. So for her, she's saying, have this, but she hadn't been able to find anything that she could offer them that was actually low enough in sugar. So, you know, even if it's not necessarily, like, you know, as I do keep saying, it's not just if you want to give up. But if you're just trying to get a bit healthier, even just in the week or something, it can really help. Again, just being mindful. It's all about being mindful about what you're putting in your body. And she talks a lot about not forcing yourself. Like, it should be easy. It should be easy to just not eat things that aren't good for you. And when you do, so when you sort of cut them out and then reintroduce them, like I hadn't been eating sugar for about 3 weeks, and then I happened to do some baking with my niece yesterday, which I wouldn't have done had she not been here, but I ended up having this slice of banana bread with choc chips in it, and my stomach was actually in pain. Like, I used to just think in the evening when I was having puddings and then I'd sit on the sofa really bloated, that was just normal because I was just full from my dinner. But I didn't realise that if I don't eat that sugar in the evening, I don't feel that bloated, even if I've had a really nice big dinner full of healthy food. And it's just about being really mindful to put the food your body wants is not that, you know, it wants stuff it can process, and that it you know, makes it feel good. But I'm working with Mariana myself on a personal level, just because she's just so, we really connected because of this idea that the brain is a really powerful tool, and where she helps people to not eat sugar, and I am more about the not having alcohol. The techniques were very, very the same. They're exactly the same. They're both kind of addiction. They're not kind of addictions. They are addictions, but they, you know, it's. I hadn't realised. I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned from this whole experience, is just how powerful the mind is. It's like, change the way you think about something, just even using different words, you know. And it feels like it's so simple. Yeah, for some reason I just didn't know about it before. There's another woman whose book just was pretty life-changing as well, and she's not just about alcohol, but it's Byron Katie, Loving What Is, and she just, yeah, she calls her work the work as well, doing the work, and again, it's just turning everything on its head and taking back the power. So if a negative situation's happened to you, take back the power and start thinking, I'm choosing to not allow that to impact me negatively anymore, you know, and sort of turning things around and empowering you and giving you choice about what makes you happy and what doesn't. So yeah,
I love it. I just love the way you're keeping it so real. You know, you're just giving real life case scenarios, and it just makes sense just to hear you, and it just reminds me of that song, if it makes you happy, it can be that bad. But I think it can, because I think she was talking about you're singing at Sheryl Crow, I think
yeah.
But you know, you do the good side of that, and I love that you're all about just positivity and empowering yourself with your mind, but you're just presenting it in such a real way. So tell me what your website is so that people can find you. Where are you online?
So we are at bouchakombucha.com. So it's nice and easy. It's BOUCHA and then kombucha, just bouchakombucha.com. And so you can buy from there. You can also, because I only do the one product, obviously that's great if you just want to drink Boucha like I do, but if you want other drinks, we also sell it at wisebartender.co.uk, and they are an online supermarket for just low and no alcohol drinks. So they do a whole range of wines, beers, spirits, aperitifs, all alcohol free or very, very low alcohol, from all around the world. So they're another one, so they stock it as well. And there's thefoodmarket.com. They are an online organic local products, like all really, really good quality organic products, and yeah, so you can buy it there as well. So it's quite nice. It's on these other sites where you can just do a bit of wider shopping as well in, you know, with one purchase. So
brilliant. Are you still doing your local Brightonian deliveries?
Still doing my local Brightonian deliveries, yeah, in person. So yeah, anyone in Brighton who I go a little bit further out. I've got a delivery sort of en route to Lancing later on today. So yeah, I'm happy to do sort of localish deliveries, which is, yeah, more than happy. And then I can do same day, and I can even do it chilled if you want.
Service with a smile,
Yeah.
service with good, positive mental attitude. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. This has been really, really powerful, really inspiring. And not only that, I mean, that there's lots of inspiring stories out there. What's good about you is that you've given lots of signposting as well, and you've given lots of solutions. So it's just wonderful that there are so many choices, and just because everybody else is doing one thing, it doesn't really mean I have to do that if it doesn't make me feel so good. So it's really great just to offer choices and ask questions so that people, I mean, can just find their own way at a level that works for them. So I think you've done that very respectfully and very honorably. So you are so amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.